Okay, tonight we are reading Last Gamer Standing, Chapter 1. I am definitely going to die. The darkness pressed in on me from all sides, blocking any possible escape routes. A sliver of sunlight peeked out through the thick canopy of Chinese elm trees surrounding me. Fireflies wove in and out of the leaves, the little creatures providing the only light illuminating who, or maybe what, I was fighting. The Weixian forest hid both demon and human enemies alike. I'd taken down 2 nine-tailed foxes, a Hu Li Jing, and 3 human enemies using my trusty weapons, a red and gold-banded staff named like the Ru Yi Jingu Bang that could shrink or stretch to any size. In this forest, it wasn't uncommon to also run into Igui, or hungry ghosts, or Guipo, or demons disguised like old women. At the moment, there were no demons nearby. Only 2 of us. Only 2 of us were left. Once I took down the last enemy, I'd be home free. Unfortunately, this last guy was good. I'd spent an hour exchanging blows with him, but we were pretty evenly matched. My Ryu Jingu Bang wasn't enough to take down my opponent, so wasn't enough to take down my opponent, so I'd been trying to construct a new weapon from the materials in my messenger bag. If I didn't make something powerful and quick, I'd be in big trouble. All right, Pro Slayer, I hissed to myself, my breath fogged up the inside of my Codex, the VR helmet I always used in a match. I spun around in circles and held my weapon at the ready, the golden tip pointing into the dark forest. Come out and face me, and let's end this. The sound of wind rustling branches answered me. At least, I hoped that was the wind, and not another Hui Li Jing or an Igui waiting to pounce on me. The thrum of a steady rhythm in the distance grew faster and more frantic. Danger was near. I clenched my teeth against the sudden chill. This showdown needed to end as quickly as possible. We'd been battling a little over an hour, and most matches were usually finished by now. While the suit softened the blow of in-game hits, my limbs were quaking from the exhaustion of combat. The sun had set, and so it was getting harder to see through the thick growth of trees. I was running dangerously low on energy. Something shiny on the ground caught my eye. A bronze wire. I snatched it up and placed it in my messenger bag. Think. I rummaged through the contents in there. A wire. I could make something with that. A device to destroy the enemy. All I needed was a fuse and gunpowder. I was sure I had those materials in here somewhere. My frustration grew as I continued digging through my bag with no luck. Then another glowing item emerged in a nearby bush. A peach. Energy. My avatar had taken on some damage and I needed to restore my health bar. I reached down to pick it up. Before I could, a glint of silver slashed towards me from the left. I dodged in the nick of time, then sidestepped another flash from the right. Double swords! Pro Slayer! Finally, he was showing himself. I ducked behind a giant elm tree. A flash of navy blue armor disappeared behind a cluster of Chinese snowball bushes. My target. I reached into the contents of my bag and pulled out some materials, wooden planks and a pickaxe. Aha! I quickly piled the planks on top of each other, constructing a red and black pagoda-shaped house. Not a moment too soon either. Right as I disappeared into the protection of the house, Pro Slayer's sword slashed the spot where I'd been standing. Ping! That noise indicated a player had opened a new chat bubble. A message in neon green lettering appeared in the left corner of my Codex's screen. Pro Slayer, you gonna hide in there like a girl, or are we gonna end this? Fury spiked through me. Gamers like Pro Slayer like to use girl as an insult in the most misogynistic way. If there was one thing gaming had taught me, it was that nothing got on these players' nerves like returning their half-baked insults with smiley faces and proper grammar. They hated that. I gritted my teeth This was no time to let insults get the best of me. My gaming session, the first round of qualifiers for the Junior Dayhold tournament, was currently being live streamed on the Dayhold official esports live channel. Thousands of unnamed, faceless gamers and fans watched this final showdown between the Rui Na and Pro Slayer from the comfort of their homes. They probably expected me to lose, since in last year's Junior Dayhold tournament, Pro Slayer had not only qualified, he'd finished in the top 10. He was really good. Of course, the last Junior Dayhold tournament hadn't seen the likes of the Rui Na. It was time to crank up my gaming and turn the tables on Pro Slayer. Nobody was getting between me and the grand prize. Wire, fuse, gunpowder. Frantically, I sorted through tree leaves and flowers, the useless items in my bag. I vowed to organise the contents of what I'd collected as soon as this round concluded. Time to get him tilted. Reply to chat with Pro Slayer, I commanded Codex. The Rui Na. I'm right here. Come and get me. Smiley, smiley, smiley. Pro Slayer. Get ready to cry for mama, punk. Pro Slayer's rage was practically palpable through the screen. I'm telling you, it was the smiley face thing. Come to Papa, I growled under my breath. I didn't know if I was talking to Pro Slayer or to the items I was still frantically searching for. Probably both. I glanced at the screen on the right side of my helmet. My armor and health bars glowed an angry red. Practically empty. My virtual energy drained every time I took a hit, and I'd taken several already in this battle. I needed to replenish it, or else it was game over. Game over, man. I could picture the peach from earlier still on the bush near Pro Slayer's boots, taunting me. Seconds! I had seconds to destroy Pro Slayer, or he'd destroy me. Then, there, the fuse and gunpowder showed up in my bag, side by side. I pulled them out and combined them with a bronze wire. The items glowed as they fused to form an explosive, not a moment too soon. Pro Slayer charged forward into the pagoda. He slashed with both swords towards me. Unfortunately for Pro Slayer, I'd exited the house. I dove for the peach and devoured it in 2 chomps. Seconds later, my health level went up. Health level restored by 50%, said the Codex's automated voice. I ducked for cover behind a nearby cherry blossom tree and watched as the bomb I'd left in the pagoda exploded in a fiery burst of orange flames. Who's crying for mama now, punk? Seconds later, a red message popped up in the space where the house had just stood moments ago. Pro Slayer has been eliminated. Then there was another ping, and a giant scoreboard replaced the previous message. Red letters flashing bright. Next to each player's name and score stood their avatars. The Rui Na, 89 points. Pro Slayer, 78 points. Amethyst, 57 points. Dustiness, 49 points. RHCP, 44 points. Round 1 qualifiers winner, the Rui Na. Okay. Ha! Take that! I punched my fists into the air. I did the body roll and then a dab. This, which was the Rui Na's signature move for victory, inspired by my favourite K-pop idols, Yumi. I closed my eyes as the Weixian forest dissolved around me. The button on my gamer suit over my navel activated, and moments later I was jolted back to reality, the holographic screen that connected me to the virtual reality world of Dayhold. I'd spent over an hour positioned within my gaming setup, and my aching muscles were definitely feeling it. Taking off my codex, I shook out my tangled hair and breathed in deeply. Adrenaline soared in my blood, and my heart hammered in my chest. Another night, another gaming session down. 89 more points. Not too shabby. Points were only useful for the Dayhold store, where I could finally afford to upgrade my weapons and armor. This was the best feeling on the planet, the adrenaline rush of being in battle, the sense of accomplishment at outwitting an opponent in strategy. The Junior Dayhold tournament was my second official tournament ever, and the tournament jitters had shaken me enough that I'd gotten off to a rocky start. There was more at stake for me than the other players. As far as the Dayhold gaming community knew, the Rui Na, like my avatar, was a teen boy. I had a very good reason for keeping as low a profile as I could, because the person actually behind the Rui Na was a 12-year-old girl. Chapter 2. Let's press pause and start over. I was the Rui Na, but I was also not. In Dayhold, Rui Na was a male avatar with an awesome costume and hair, customised by yours truly. A rising star among the players. Yet the person behind the screen was a short 6th grader with plain black hair named Rui Na, or in Chinese, Rui Na Cheng. I wasn't exactly hiding my identity. The other gamers just assumed that my avatar reflected my real-life self. When people did ask me for my Dayhold username in real life, I had a whole alt account prepared. Of course, Reigning Champ, which was a pretty clever name, especially for a fake account, if I do say so myself. Having my main account feature a female avatar in the Dayhold world would be an invitation for trash talk from male gamers, a lesson I'd learned the hard way. 4 years ago, when I'd first started playing Dayhold, I'd created a female avatar and named myself Pandraglox. But every time I joined a practice battle, the guys would mock my gameplay for being too girly, whatever that was supposed to mean. After a year of constant teasing, I decided to scrap my first avatar and come up with a new one. Hence, the Rui Na was born. Someone who looked and acted tough, someone the male gamers would accept in the Dayhold community. Gaming was dominated by guys, so it wasn't a surprise that Dayhold Academies was a total boys' club too. There were 400 students enrolled, some of them full-time students and some of them only enrolled for the 2067 summer camp. Just 78 of us identified as girls. The pro Dayhold teams like Fusion scouted from Dayhold Academy that meant there was fierce competition among students. And since plenty of students were participating in the Junior Dayhold tournament this summer, some publicity, some publicly, some not so publicly, tensions ran higher than ever. The sound of footsteps in the hall jolted me out of my post-live stream euphoria. I checked the digital clock on my nightstand. It was already 10:15, which meant lights out was in 15 minutes. The caretaker, Mr. Porter, was making his rounds through the dorm halls, checking that we were all ready for sleep. As I was about to turn in for the night, my X-Phone 7 vibrated on the bed. Baba, flashed the caller ID on the screen. I glanced at the door, listening as the sounds of footsteps moved past my room and then down the hall. A quick call wouldn't break the rules. Hi, Baba, I whispered. The X-Phone 7 was one of the older models of the X-Phone, but still possessed advanced functions like being able to pick up my voice from across the room so I could talk as quietly as I wanted. Rui Na! Rather than sounding warm, my father's voice carried an edge of panic. I wasn't sure if you were still up. I suppressed a yawn and said sleepily, I'm about to go to bed. I wouldn't normally call you so close to curfew, but this is an emergency. Your mother is in the hospital again. A lump formed in my throat as reality came rushing back to me like a tidal wave. Now I was wide awake. My father's words reminding me of the ugly truth. Mama was sick with cancer. She had been for a few years now. Again, I thought Mama just got back. Is she okay? She will be okay. When are you coming home to visit though? Your mother misses you. I translated Bubba speak in my head. We both miss you. Not that my stoic Chinese father would ever admit anything as mushy and emotional as missing me. My parents had fretted over me leaving home. Brooklyn, for the summer camp in the heart of Manhattan. Even though camp was only a half-hour train ride from home, Bubba and Mama were so protective of me, their only daughter. They always had been. I can't come home until the camp is over. Remember, I reminded my father, guilt suddenly twisting my gut. That's in late August. Home. I missed it dearly. I pictured my family's small brownstone apartment. The stack of medical bills on the kitchen counter from Mama's hospital trips, the cabinets stuffed full of her pills and medicine. The guilt surged again, along with a fresh motivation. My parents had agreed to let me attend Dayhold Academy summer camp because 6 months ago I'd participated in the spring Dayhold Games. It was the Rui Na's first appearance in an amateur tournament, and I'd surprised everyone, including myself, by taking home 3rd place. It was a big deal for a no-name gamer. Commander Dayhold, founder of the game and president of the academy, reached out to me personally to offer a scholarship to attend the academy and encourage me to enter the Junior Dayhold tournament. It was the chance of a lifetime, a chance that I'd never thought I'd get. After a lot of begging, I convinced my parents to let me enroll. They just didn't know I wasn't exactly playing as myself. Most professional day-hold players were male, and there were so few well-known pro female gamers that I could name them all off the top of my head. Moonshine, Lucky Jade 847, Lucky Tricks, Avenging Angel. Right at the start of the camp, a message went out to the whole school. Fusion presents the Junior Day-Hold Tournament, ages 13 and up. A battle royale to end them all. Qualifiers Monday, August the 8th to Sunday, August the 14th. Tournament Monday, August 22nd to Sunday, August 28th. Grand prize $10,000. Meet and greet with a fusion team. Runner-up $3,000. Rules. Players who would like to take part in the Junior Day-Hold Tournament will need to finish with enough qualifying points to be among the top 100 by the end of the qualifying week. $10,000? The contest hosts were offering the winner $10,000. Everybody couldn't stop talking about the tournament. With that kind of money, Bubba could pay off Mama's medical bills and more. We could get her the best treatment in the world for her stage 2 breast cancer. There were only 3 of us in my tiny family. Like always, I had to do whatever I could to keep our family glued together. And maybe there'd be money left over for nicer meals, not just spaghetti with tomato sauce and hot dog chunks. Maybe there would even be money left over for all of us to finally take that trip to China we'd been talking about for ages but couldn't afford. Travel by electric-powered bullet airplanes, the most advanced transportation of today, was way out of our price range. It would be my first time seeing China ever. Plus, the winner would get a chance to meet and play with the Fusion team. They were only one of the top pro esports teams in the world. The members were like gods in the Day-Hold world. Lucky Jade 847 and Moonshine were also on the Fusion team. Their posters decorated my dorm room at Day-Hold Academy. Getting to play with my heroes was a prize beyond my wildest dreams. If I won the Junior Day-Hold tournament, my parents would finally understand my dream of being a pro gamer. To me, Day-Hold was so much more than just a game. Video games gave me a sense of accomplishment that I didn't get at school or anywhere else. I mean, there was no better feeling than defeating a demon. It was a whole new world to escape to when the real world wasn't looking so hot. Like when my grandfather, died 3 years ago. Bubba, who never cried ever, sobbed for days, and I didn't know what to do except watch helplessly. Or now, with Bubba struggling to pay Mama's medical bills and with his engineering job at Day-Hold and Mama slowly losing energy every day, on days when I felt down, I escaped into a fantastical world where I could be in control, mostly. I still had to keep my true identity secret. Good night, Rui Na. Bubba had been so silent on the other end of the phone that I thought he'd fallen asleep. Good night, Bubba. The next day in class, all anybody wanted to talk about was the previous night's qualifiers. Our professors set aside some lesson time to discuss the results and the competitors' gameplay. Day-Hold Academy was split into 2 age groups: silver level, students aged 8 through 12, and gold level, students ages 13 through 17. Only the gold level students were old enough to qualify for and compete in the Junior Day-Hold tournament. Since I was the sole scholarship recruit from the silver level, though, Commander Day-Hold had made an exception for me. It worked out in my favour. Nobody would ever suspect that a 12-year-old newcomer, Rui Na, had qualified for the tournament, which meant I was free to keep my true gaming identity under wraps. There was pretty much no danger of me being doxxed, but it did mean that I would have to play and practice twice as much as my classmates, as both the Rui Na and reigning champ. Hardly any of my silver level classmates paid attention to our morning lectures. In Professor Lucien's intermediate strategy course, we were supposed to be silent reading the next chapter in our Day-Hold Battle Strategies textbook, which was all about feigning tactics. But the professor had to keep shushing students for whispering behind their books. A similar pattern followed in Professor Nelson's history of virtual reality. Are you all ever even going to bother pretending to pay attention? Shouted short, squat Professor Nelson after trying and failing to interest the class in the achingly boring stages of development of the codex. In his gaming nutrition class, Professor Nakamura gave up entirely and spent his lesson discussing the qualifying round results with us. I flushed when he wrote the Rui Na in big block letters using the stylus on the holographic board. It was on a list with a few other usernames of the players whose gameplay had impressed him the most. The conversations continued after class too. Did you see the Rui Na play last night? Liam Russ was asking. Sanjeet Singh, as I passed them by them on the way to lunch, I almost tripped over my own shoelaces. They both gave me funny looks before turning away. Sanjeet said, "Yeah, dude has some sick moves. Swear he came out of nowhere too." Right, the Rui Na totally blasted Pro Slayer, took him out with an explosive right when he was about to run out of energy. My cheeks prickled with heat. I couldn't help it when I heard my username mentioned like that. I wished I could have turned around to thank Liam for the compliment. And Pro Slayer is like a ranked player from previous tournaments. This new guy is pretty much a nobody, Liam continued. A nobody? I take that back. No thanks for you, Liam. Not a nobody. The Rui Na won third place in the Spring Dayhold Games, Sanjeet pointed out. Yeah, but that was just one time. Could have been a fluke. Liam waved his hands through the air. Someone tapped me on the shoulder. Well, I say tapped, but it was closer to smacked. Hey, Rayner, what do you think of the round one qualifiers yesterday? I turned around to face Henry Amano, or Hey Amano, which he went by in the Dayhold universe. My best friend's brown eyes shone with curiosity. I imagined telling Henry the truth. It was great. I was playing as the Rui Na and I smoked Pro Slayer. Surprise! As hilarious as it would have been to see the reaction on his face, there was no way I could admit to that, even to my best friend. Henry had the biggest blabbermouth of anyone I knew. Those qualifiers were definitely something. Strong competitors last night, huh? I said. Tell me about it. Did you see the Rui Na? Everyone's talking about him today. He took out Pro Slayer. Guess the Rui Na's impressive showing at the Spring Dayhold Games was for real. I cleared my throat and tried to appear as nonchalant as possible. Yeah, the Rui Na seems pretty awesome. Hey, I was proud of the victory I'd pulled off last night, especially given that it had been only my second amateur esports battle in public. Henry stroked his chin. He kept doing it for the longest time, as though he were in deep thought. Henry, you don't have a beard. You don't even have stubble, I reminded him. The Rui Na versus Felks, Henry said at last, ignoring me. Now that'd be the ultimate matchup. I wonder who'd win in that showdown. Just the mention of the username Felks was enough to put me in a foul mood. Felks was a live streamer and one of the top junior Dayhold players around, but only because he wasn't afraid to fight dirty. Felks also happened to be a gold-level student at Dayhold Academy, the popular, blonde-haired, green-eyed Felix Matthews, a poster child for esports everywhere. I never wanted to play against Felks, not because I didn't think I could beat him, but because I didn't want to put up with any of his dirty fighting. Hopefully someone else would take him out of the tournament before we ended up facing each other. The Rui Na would win against Felks, of course, I sniffed. Henry frowned and cocked his head to the side. You sure about that? I think I'd put my bet on Felks. Even though I didn't vocalise my thoughts, Henry could tell what I was thinking because he said defensively, okay, so maybe the dude doesn't have the cleanest reputation, but you got to admit he's still got some pretty solid moves. The bell rang, signalling that it was time for lunch. I just shook my head, heaved an exaggerated sigh of disappointment and walked away without another word. What? Was it something I said? Henry called after me. In the cafeteria, I slid into my usual spot at an empty table in the corner. Call me antisocial, but I didn't see the point in making friends since everyone around me was in competition. Also, being one of the few girls was pretty intimidating and made it even harder for me to summon the courage to try to make friends. Why would I want to be friends with a bunch of stinky guys who had burping contests during lunchtime? No thanks. I watched Mimi Huang walk up to a holographic screen at the back of the cafeteria to order. Moments later, a cheeseburger with fries came down the chute and landed on a tray in the pickup area a few feet away. Mimi walked her tray over to the drink dispenser and pressed another button on the holographic screen beside it, and a bottle of orange juice came out of the dispenser, landing neatly on her tray. Dayhold's state-of-the-art technology meant no more crabby old lunch ladies, but unfortunately the food here was the same as any school cafeterias, which meant we had to eat cardboard-like pizza and questionable hot dogs for days. I preferred to eat alone, but after a few minutes, Mimi, Sanjeet and Liam sat down in the empty seats at my table, carrying their trays of food. Mimi's gamer tag was Mimas, Sanjeet went by Super Saiyan 8, and Liam played under Battle Boss. I'd brought my own food today, a pack of green tea flavoured sunflower seeds and some dried seaweed, which my parents had given me before I'd left for camp. It wasn't much, but my favourite snacks reminded me of home and temporarily cured me of any loneliness. Luckily for the Junior Dayhold Tournament hopefuls, we got great in-room snacks like chips and sodas before our games, thanks to Fusion's generous sponsorship. I definitely plan to take advantage of them before the next round. I can't believe how intense the qualifiers were last night, whined Mimi, who sat in the chair next to me. She tugged at her pigtails. I know there's a lot of cash involved, but it was only the first round and this tournament is supposed to be just for fun. Anyway, geez. It's not just for fun when there is $10,000 on the line, Sanjeet informed Mimi with a serious expression. That's a lot of money. That's like a lifetime supply of cheese. Who the heck wants a lifetime supply of cheese? Mimi said, gagging. I guess you're right, though. That is a ton of money. And her eyes widened as she gasped, dropping the rest of the cheeseburger onto her plate. Mimi's gasp was echoed by gasps and cheers around the cafeteria. I looked up and immediately located the source of all the noise. Felix Matthews, Phelps, wearing a grey hoodie and black jeans, he strode into the cafeteria with a few of his popular gold-level friends, all guys. He raised a hand to acknowledge the students who were fawning over him, cool and collected as always. I rolled my eyes. Everyone at school treated Phelps like a celebrity. I guess he kind of was one since he was one of the most popular Dayhold live streamers, but he wasn't the only good player around, and I'd prove that to the school and the Dayhold world during this tournament. There he is, the man of the hour, Liam said with a sigh full of admiration. One day I'm going to be as good as Phelps. He puffed out his chest and glanced at Mimi. Yeah, keep dreaming, Liam, Mimi snorted. Liam looked happy instead of offended, though I think he was just content his crush was talking to him. Go figure. You don't want to be like Phelps, Sanjeet warned. He cast an anxious gaze around the cafeteria. Phelps had that effect on Dayhold. Dayhold gamers. Some were scared of the guy, like he was everywhere all the time. He's pretty much indestructible. Yeah, and isn't that a good thing? Liam said. Sanjeet shook his head. Nah, it's suspicious. Is that what it is? Bet you anything Phelps is getting some extra help. Those are just rumours, Liam protested. People accused him of cheating, but nobody could find any evidence. Sanjeet went on as though Liam hadn't spoken. If you're going to aim to be like someone, you want to be like the Rui Na. Came out of nowhere and owned a ranked player in the tournament's first round. Incredible. Man, I love a good underdog story. He smiled in satisfaction, as if he were the one who defeated ProSlayer. There was my username again. I stiffened. Even though I knew there was no way my classmates would guess my Dayhold identity, I couldn't help but feel nervous at the thought. I hid my true identity for so long. I did my best not to draw attention to myself, but unfortunately eating sunflower seeds quietly was not one of my strong suits. I swear the sound of my teeth biting against the shells could be heard within a 50-mile radius. Raina, what did you think of the qualifiers? Mimi asked, blinking at me as though the noise had just made her realise I was still sitting here. I jolted. It was cool, I mumbled. Silence. They clearly expected me to elaborate. But I clammed up. After an awkward silence, Mimi, Sanjeet and Liam continued their conversation without me. The rest of the school day passed in a blur. Round 2 of qualifiers for the Junior Dayhold tournament was scheduled for later in the evening, and that was all I could think about. Only the top 100 players would make it into the tournament, and thanks to last night's win over ProSlayer, I only needed to win this second qualifier. As soon as I got to my room, I ordered a hamburger, Caesar salad and vanilla milkshake from the holographic screen. The food materialized in the food slot off to the left of the screen. It was my first square meal of the day, and my mouth watered at the delicious smell. I eagerly dug in, too hungry to care about how messily I was eating. Nobody was here to see me anyway. After I'd finished my dinner, I still had an hour to kill before the start of the qualifiers. I put on my codex and calibrated it to the holographic screen, and then I was through to my Dayhold player files. Welcome, the Rui Na, flashed in a big, bold white lettering in the middle of the screen. On the left side, there were a few different icons, an envelope for my email, a document for the Dayhold rulebook, and a round gold coin for the Dayhold shop. I had earned 89 points total so far. Doing poorly in any of the 3 qualifying rounds didn't necessarily mean being eliminated from the Junior Dayhold tournament, but it did mean losing out on earning these crucial points, which could be exchanged for new armour, a weapons upgrade, or special items that would come in handy during the tournament. I browsed the digital shop for a bit, taking my time to carefully select what to spend my precious coins on. The logical part of my brain knew that I'd earn more the longer I was in the tournament, but another part of my brain, I'd been raised by frugal immigrant parents after all, cringed at the idea of splurging on too many shiny new things, like a hot pink sword. Okay, so it was shiny and pretty, but who needed a hot pink sword when it cost 200 coins? Weapons were important, which is why they were so pricey, but I didn't see the point in overloading on them. As long as I had one really good weapon that I could continue to upgrade, I'd be able to advance rapidly through the rounds. It wasn't like I could wield more than one weapon at a time in battle. The Rui Jingu Bang was the staff I'd chosen from the starter menu out of many options. It was a legendary weapon from the Chinese mythology, one of the most powerful of all. It was also the same weapon that Lucky Jade 847 used when she played in pro tournaments. Using the red and gold banded staff made me feel one step closer to my idol. Also, it was just a freaking cool weapon. I finally settled on buying more healing peaches. They were cheap and handy in battle. I also upgraded my staff so that it was longer, which would aid me in taking out opponents more quickly. Since I'd used up some items in the last round, I also picked up the new copper wire and fuses. And finally, I snagged a cloak, which would essentially allow me to turn invisible, sort of. Opponents could still see me, but they wouldn't be able to see my heat source register in their helmets, which made the cloak the perfect weapon for sneak attacks. My Dayhold wallet considerably lighter, I exited the shop and took off my codex. Only 30 minutes left until the second round. 30 minutes left until the second round. It was time for my pre-game ritual, which was sort of like my good luck charm. Picking up my X-Phone, I scrolled through my playlists and blasted the one titled K-Pop Faves. Immediately, a BXS song began blaring out of the phone speaker. Dancing to the beat and attempting to body roll in real life, it did not go as well as it did in virtual reality. I opened up my closet. An array of stylish gamer suits in every colour of the rainbow greeted me. The gamer suits were necessary for VR play in the world of Dayhold. After a few minutes debate, selecting the right outfit was important since I didn't want to look like a total scrub. I chose a purple gamer suit. The BXS song changed to a song by Once, my favourite K-pop girl group. Dancing offbeat, I reached over to my dresser to pick up my codex. Placing the headset over my head, I stood in front of the holographic screen. I reached out a finger to boot up my system and log into Dayhold. The system took a few moments to sense my helmet and calibrate it to the cloud, the data storage center that linked up the player's gaming suit with data with the virtual reality world. Once the calibration was done, the screen glowed. Another evening, another round of qualifiers. Now that classes were over for the day, I could begin my real work. I pressed the button on my codex's right side and the real world and all its problems disappeared around me as the virtual world of Dayhold unfolded before my eyes. The setting for this game was different from the last round. The Great Wall of China stretched out before me, the stones weathered and real-looking. I reached out to touch it, and it felt rock solid beneath my fingertips. Already, I spotted a 9-tailed fox with red eyes charging down the steps towards me. Above it, 50 points hovered in red lettering. I drew my Rui Jingu Bang out of my messenger bag. It was time to defeat some creatures and gamers and rack up even more points. Don't worry, Bubba and Mama. I'm going to win this tournament for my family.